Hi, my name's Eric, and I'm the developer of BarrelBook, and I'm really excited to show you all this app. I'll tell you, I made this app really because I wanted a way to kind of catalog my whiskey collection, but also kind of track what I've tasted and my notes for tasting it. And then it just kind of evolved to have what I think are these really cool power user features that are both simple to use, but also really robust for even the largest collection. So let me show you it a little bit. So let's get into it. First, I'm going to show you very quickly each of the main sections of the app, and then we'll go into each of them much more thoroughly. So here's your homepage where you can add new whiskeys, tasting, wish list. You could see your recent activity. You could also kind of sort it and filter it and tap. It's all tappable. Quick stats of your entire collection. Here's where your collection is. And there's incredibly robust filtering and sorting options. Wish list for bottles that you don't yet have, as well as a replacement tab for maybe a bottle you finished. And it's like, oh, yeah, I need to remember to get another one of those. And the wish list section is pretty cool because it can use GPS to find the nearest store. And you could also tell the wish list what stores have what bottles. The tasting section is really what made me get this app. So there are some whiskey apps that track collections, and there are some that track tastings. But honestly, I haven't found any that do them both in a way that I wanted to use them. And I'm hoping that my app it not only works for me, which it does, but for you. And so I'll show you the tasting, and then statistics. Where you see all sorts of statistics about your collection, and you could tap in almost anything, and it shows you that specific filter. So whether it's a proof, a price, you could also check what you've tasted, what you've not tasted. That's what these bars are. So let's get into it in detail.
We're going to start with a completely fresh database so you see how this works a little bit. So I'm going to delete all data. We'll go through the settings screen later. There's some cool things in there. Now I'm going to add a whiskey. You could do that either on the collection screen, adding that plus, or on the home screen, add new whiskey. So we'll just say Buffalo Trace, a good standard. Type, it's a bourbon. Distillery, Buffalo Trace. Now, the only data that's necessary for the app to save something and have the data in there is the name. You don't need anything else. But the more data you have, the more things you have access to in terms of sorting and filtering and that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to put a bunch of stuff in here. I know Buffalo Trace does not have these characteristics, but I just want you to see it. So the app defaults to one bottle. But if you have more than that, you can say that. You can also select the number of dead bottles. A dead bottle is a bottle that's finished, whether you threw it away or you have the empty bottle sitting somewhere. The app can track kind of a bottle history through time, including price differences. Again, if you wanted to. So we'll say number of active bottles 3. So that means you have 3 bottles that have juice in them, that have Buffalo Trace in them. And of those 3, we'll say 2 are open. We'll say it was $39.99 each. And I'm going to say, look at my collection in bottle notes. Just to show you how that works. So now in quick stats, and it kind of rounds, collection 1 whiskey, 3 bottles. You see the total value is 120. PPP, I actually learned this while I was making this app. PPP is price per point, meaning price per proof point. So the average is 32 cents. We've tasted 0 and we've wish listed 0. And if we go into the collection, at a glance, it's all alphabetized. You see on the right side, I hope you can see this, you see the kind of letters that you could scroll through and click on, but only the B is highlighted because that's all we have shown right now. So you see Buffalo Trace. The finish is italicized and in a different color, so you could see it easily. The price point has different colors the higher in price you go. You see the proof right away. You see your notes for the bottle, look at my collection, and then 3 active. The half-filled circle next to it means that of that whiskey, you have a bottle that's open. So, let's say you're hanging out with a bunch of buddies and you're deciding what to drink, you can easily scroll through and say, well, I don't want to have something I haven't opened yet. I'm just going to look at my open. There's other ways to do that too in terms of sorting and filtering, and we'll look at that shortly. Let's talk about data for a second. It takes a long time to get a large database built up. And that's one of the reasons why it was so important to me for the app to be able to kind of talk to a spreadsheet CSV file. And in the data management section, the download CSV template guides you very easily on how to set up your own spreadsheet so that it can talk to the app. If you already have your whiskey in a spreadsheet, it will probably take you less than 5 minutes to adapt it for the app. If you don't, then no problem. The app can make one for you from its database, and then you can continue working. But what I'm going to do right now, just to show you, is I'm going to import my spreadsheet, and then we're going to look at that data and the different features that the app has. So import CSV, it opens the file browser on the iPhone. This is what it's called, Eric's collection. I'm going to put that in. Then start fresh, merge with existing, hopefully speaks for itself. You can see the options with more details there. I'm going to tap start fresh. Then a warning, delete and import. It goes through pretty quickly, as you can see. I have a big collection, as my wife is wont to tell me. Successfully imported 399 whiskeys from CSV. Perfect. So now I'm on the collection tab for my collection. And up top, where it says 399 whiskeys, 412 bottles, that difference is because some whiskeys I have doubles of. I have more than one bottle of. That shows whatever's selected. So if you click the top left icon, these are your filters. So let's see, you only want to see your bourbons. Okay, we'll just do this really easily. Now it's only showing bourbons. And now you see it's a different number of whiskeys and bottles. Okay. And you see again the alphabet bar on the right side, and you can click the letters, and I think you should be able to see this. It only shows the letters that are in that current view. So you see Q isn't blue, or U, X, or Z, because those don't have entries. Okay, now if you hit reset all filters, it goes back. You could also change the proof range. So let's say you only wanted to drink something, or you only wanted to see between 100 and 133. The reason it shows 133 is because it will show your highest proof bourbon on the right side and your lowest on the left side. That 17 is a mistake. I must have inputted something incorrectly. There's no way I have a bourbon that's 17 proof. That's also wouldn't be a bourbon. So let's say I want to, again, see between 100 and 133. And I don't want to see whiskey, Tennessee whiskey, or rye. Okay, so now that's what I see. Now let's sort differently. So you could sort by name, proof, price, the type. So, bourbon would be above rye, right? So alphabetically. The age, in terms of age statement. Which things you have open would show first, which things aren't open first, and then recently added on the bottom. So if you're like, what? I bought a whiskey 2 weeks ago. What was it? You could kind of do it that way. I want to show you something else about this filtering page. It's super powerful and fun. So we'll reset all filters again. So you can sort by type. And those types, by the way, aren't hard coded into the app. They're the types that you put. So for example, if you put as a type, favorite whiskey, that would show up. I wouldn't suggest doing that, but you can call them whatever you want. The proof, the price, and then here are special designations. And this is kind of cool. So, some whiskeys are bottled and bond, single barrel, store pick, whether a bottle is open or not, open or sealed, whiskeys with a finish such as, sherry or port or rum or Armagnac, something like that. If you want to see your dead bottles, the default to that is no. Web reviews, we'll talk about that. And then things you've tasted. So let's say you want to see, so all means you see all of them, and those are the default. So let's say you only want to see bottled in bonds that, well, I don't know that I have a ton of bottled in bonds. Let's say you only want to see single barrels that have a cask finish. And then you could even go more. You could say with a proof range or a price range. So we'll do that. Now I have 14. So if you look at this filtered list, the purple tag is single barrel. The SP means store pick. So again, you could just see at a glance these things. You see how the price, the color of that tag kind of changes as the price goes up. So it's another kind of marker. And again, filtering is super powerful, especially if combined, with sorting. Let's talk about editing information and changing information, because obviously bottle status has changed. So I'm going to click into this 80-second airborne. I only have one of them. So I could mark it as open. I can mark it as tasted. Those two usually go hand in hand. But remember, it's bottles that are open, not an entire whiskey. An entire whiskey, you've either tasted it or you haven't, whereas individual bottles can have different statuses. Okay. If you click the edit icon in the top right, you can change everything about it. So like, let's say you typed it in wrong or something like that. You could do that. But here is something interesting. So let's say you finish the bottle. It's a dead bottle. I'm going to toggle it and we're going to get a new screen. Buy new bottle. Would you? So let's say, like, for example, Prohibition 1920, Old Forester 1920. I always like to have a bottle of. So if I mark it as dead, if I finish that bottle, I want to add it to the shopping list. So we're going to do that now with this 80-second airborne, add to shopping list. Now, if I go into Wishlist and replacements, there it is, 80-second airborne. It shows that I want to buy that again. And if I tap into it, it shows the bottle history. So right now I have one dead bottle and 0 active bottles, and I can add a replacement bottle. Really cool feature. All right, let's talk about Wishlist for a little bit. We're going to go a little bit deep on this one, so you can skip if you're not interested. But this, again, is another feature that I haven't really seen implemented anywhere else. So for those of us who love collecting and buying bottles, there's always going to be a wish list. There's things you definitely want to buy, like, if you see a Pappy, you're going to get it, right? There's things maybe a buddy of yours told you about. Oh, I should check that out. Maybe you want to buy something when it hits a particular price. And then there's also like what stores have what bottles. So I would like to think that I've implemented that in a easy to use way. So I have my wish list empty now so I can show you how it works. So we'll say add to wish list and we'll just say Russell Reserve 8-year type bourbon. And you can put in other things. For the wish list, I usually don't, because I just put in just enough stuff so I know what it is. And if I see it in a store, I kind of know. For rarity, you could leave it at the default of not sure, or you could, say uncommon or something else. You could put in a target price if you want, so that you can remind yourself if you do see it in the store, oh yeah, I wanted to find it under $40 or whatever. And then priority, it defaults to 3. You could go 1 to 5. We'll leave it at 3. The part I want to show you is this where to find. So you could leave it blank, which is just a generic, I want this bottle. But let's say you're at a store. You could say, and for the sake of this demonstration, I'll say that I'm at Village Spirits, which is the store closest to my house in Georgia. So I could say add store. It uses GPS. You allow it when you onboard the app. And it'll show in distance the stores. You could also type in a store, like if you have a favorite store that's not listed. So I'm going to say Village Wine and Spirits, and now I'm going to hit save. What it does after that, if you've selected a store, is would you like to add another bottle from Village Wine and Spirits? The thought I had here is oftentimes when you're adding things to a wish list, it might be when you're in that store. So rather than selecting that store every time, you can just kind of almost batch add. I'm going to say no right now. And then there you see it. Russell Reserve 8-year. You can see it's at Village Wine and Spirits. I have a 3 rarity uncommon. Now you can filter your wish list by priority, and you could tap multiple things. Same thing with rarity, target, price search, and then I only right now have the bourbon, so you see the type bourbon. So you see the filtering there. You can also export your wish list. So if you want to send it to a friend who's maybe at a honey store where they have lots of good bottles, or in a different part of America or something, you can send it. One other thing I'll show you, what happens when you actually do find that bottle. Actually, before I do that, one very quick thing that I think is important and useful is you can also show wish list items only from a particular store. So I realize I only have one thing in here, but it's easy to understand, I think. So let's say I'm at Village Wine and I only want to see my wish list items that I have set to that store. If you tap all stores, it'll show you all the stores that you have things listed in. You could tap Village Wine and there it is. You can also assign a whiskey to more than one store. So if you see it in 2 places, so I just wanted to show you that really quickly. So let me show you how you move things from your wish list to the collection. Otherwise, it wouldn't really serve much of a purpose. So I added to my wish list, as I'm sure all of us have, a bottle of Pappy 23-year-old. It's a unicorn. Yes, it is. Someday. And my target's $150, which of course is ridiculous. I would pay more than that. But so you go into a store, I go into a store, and it's like, oh my God, there's a bottle of Pappy 23. It's $300, but I'm still going to buy it. You go in your wish list, and now you add to your collection. And it's all pre-filled out with the information that you already told it from the wish list. You could add more type bourbon, let's say, right? And then it's not $150, it's $300. Everything else is exactly as if you were adding a whiskey from scratch, but it converts it from the wish list into your collection. You hit save. Now it's no longer in your wish list. And now if you go to the collection and I can search for Pappy, there it is. The app also supports infinity bottles. So if you don't know what an infinity bottle is, a lot of times, if you're like me, you hate finishing a bottle of whiskey, like when it's dead and then it's done. So what a lot of people do is when there's 2 or 3 ounces left, you pour a little bit into what you call an infinity bottle. And the idea is every time you're about to finish a bottle of a certain kind, like a bourbon or a rye or maybe a finish or however you want to do it. I have friends who have over like 10 infinity bottles, which I think is crazy. But that way you always have some of that bottle is the idea. And it's called infinity because as you finish bottles, you add things to it and you drink from it. So let me show you how that works. So because an infinity bottle is in your collection, it's on the collection page. So you see up top, whiskey infinity bottles, you tip infinity bottles, and then let's add a new one. So I'm just going to put Eric's Bourbon Infinity. And type, I'll say bourbon. You could also say other, like if it's going to be a combination of things. Okay. Then you hit save. Now it shows 0 ounces and 0 additions because I haven't added anything to it. So now I can add, and now it searches your collection. I can select whiskey, and this is my entire collection. So let's say I want to do, I just tapped something accidentally. Let's say I want to say Barrel Dovetail. That's the proof of it. I'm adding 2 ounces. There we go, 2 ounces. And then add. Now it shows total volume 2 ounces, proof 124.3. If we add another one, let's say with a lower proof, let's say 1792 bottled in bond, that'll be 100 proof, of course. Also 2 ounces. It does the math, which is kind of fun. See, now it shows the proof is 112.2. And it just kind of shows what's in the infinity bottle. You can delete if you put something in wrong. You could delete the whole bottle. But then also you can add tasting notes, and this is the next feature we're going to get to for the app generally also. But for those who want to keep track of an infinity bottle, it's great to keep track of your additions, also like what the volume is. So when you taste, you could say how many ounces you've tasted, and it'll take away all that fun stuff. So let's talk about one of my absolute favorite features, and one of the reasons I built this app is tastings. So I backed up my tastings so that you could kind of see it populate in real time and see how it works. So there's two views. One is kind of a what I'll call a journal entry view, which is just a list, and you'll see that in a second. And then the other is a calendar view. Nothing shows up in either because we don't have anything yet. So let's add a tasting. So we're in the tasting section, add plus. You can add a whiskey a number of different ways. You could tap in something. So let's just say Russell Reserve, okay? You could also scroll. You could pick from the wheel on the right, all sorts of ways. You can also, and this is important, have a tasting for a whiskey you don't own. Like you're at a friend's house and you try a whiskey, you're like, oh, I really like that, or I don't really like that, whatever. So we'll just stick with our Russell's 8-year, good standby. There we go. We're gonna say I had it on the 23rd. I don't wanna do it today so that you could see visually kind of how it works. Overall rating, I'll give it a 6.5. The nose I thought was smoky. I'm making this up, of course. The nose I thought was smoky, specifically charcoal. The palate, though, I thought was fruity, citrus, and nothing specific on the finish. Then you can also type in anything you want for nose, palate, finish, or overall review. You don't have to put anything in, but let's just say, wow, this surprised me. And then for the finish lasts a long time, so you can see what it looks like. And then there's serving method, neat, on the rocks, with some water, custom. You could type it out, if you drink it like maybe smoked or something like that. And then setting, with friends. All right, once you hit save, you see it show up in your journal. Russell's Reserve 8 years, 6.5. The ratings are color coded. Red means you really didn't like it. Green means it's, I think, between 7 and 8 or 8.5. I'm not remembering exactly right now. But it's another way to kind of easily visually distinguish your ratings. You can go into the detail view of the tasting to see everything you said, finish, regular review, what you said, the attributes were. Okay. And now in the calendar view, you can see the 23rd has a brown dot on it. That means that you tasted a whiskey that you rated kind of middling, 6.5. If you drank a second whiskey that day that you ranked an 8, which would be green, the dot would show green. It shows for whatever the highest ranking of what you had that day. If you had 3 whiskeys that day, they would all appear under the 23rd. So, 22nd, nothing appears. 23rd, there you go. If you go into the journal view, which is this tab, then it just lists it by default reverse chronological order. You can also do a search. So, let's say you start having a lot of things in here, which is very easy to do. I mean, even if you have 2 or 3 drinks a week, right? Like you'll start getting a bunch of these. And you can also filter. And so here's why we have different things like, serving style and things like that. So you can filter by rating. You could set the rating range you want to filter. You could filter your serving method. Here you have the flavor categories and sub flavors. It will only show you things that you've already put in. So, we're starting with a new one, so you only see these. If you didn't put them in, you're not going to see them. And then you could sort by newest first, oldest first, rated or highest rated or lowest rated. So earlier we talked about infinity bottles. Let's see how that works with the tasting now. So we'll go into infinity bottles. Here's the one I made before, Eric's Bourbon Infinity. Tastings. I'll delete that one. I made that earlier. Tasting notes. A date. We're going to put that for July 23rd also. And then everything else works the same way as a regular tasting. We'll say I ranked this an 8. Serving method also neat. Volume consumed. That's for the purposes of calculating the overall volume of the infinity bottle, which we talked about before. And then we'll save that. Now, if we go to tastings, on the 23rd, you see, the infinity bottle shows you that, or the infinity symbol shows you that. It's called Eric Bourbon Infinity. And of course, if you tap it, it shows all those details that I put in also. And now on the calendar, it shows a green mark because the highest ranked bourbon of that day is green. But if you tap it, it shows you, of course, everything that you had. I want to show a really cool thing you can do within the collection view. And I don't see any other app doing that, if I may humbly say so myself. So again, we've seen this screen before. This is the edit screen. You could do all sorts of things. One thing I didn't show is you can add a tasting directly from a particular whiskey. So let's say you want to taste 1792 12 year and you're already in here. You can just tap that and it auto-populates the whiskey, and then you can select the date and do everything just like we did before. But the thing that I want to show you here is external content. So if you tap search web for reviews, it's going to auto-populate the name of the whiskey and then show you Google results for those reviews. So if you have a favorite one, Breaking Bourbon's one of mine, so I try to scroll until I find Breaking Bourbon. I can tap on it. It's extracting review content, preview and save, and now save. Now, in the whiskey view, if you tap 1792 12 year again and you scroll down, you see external content. And it has that review formatted really nicely, super easy to read. You could, copy and paste it. You could send it to people. But I'm a super geek. I like reading what I'll call professional reviews about bourbons that I find interesting or unique, or maybe it's a nicer bottle. In the same way, I really like reading movie reviews after I watch a movie. So again, this is one of those features. If you don't care, you don't ever have to use it. But I find it really helpful, especially like if I'm geeking out with friends and we're tasting a bourbon and we're talking about it. And it's like, oh yeah, Breaking Bourbon really liked it. And they said this about it, and that sort of stuff. I'll tell you that web reviews is one thing where I specifically like to use a filter. So if we go into our main collection, tap the filter, web reviews is filterable. So by default, it's set to all so that you see whether a whiskey has one or not. But let's say you only want to see your whiskeys that do have reviews that you've added. You toggle yes, and there you go. You could also do the same for no, and then maybe add reviews to ones that have no. So just a reminder, filtering is your friend. Filtering and sorting really help you kind of focus in on all sorts of specific criteria. The statistics page is fun just to kind of see your collection in maybe ways you haven't thought about. So unique bottles, total inventory, how many you've tasted, how many bottles are dead. Everything is tappable. So bottles tasted 6. Here are the 6 that I've marked as tasted. Here's the one that I've marked as cask strength. I actually have to redo that in my collection. Bottled in bond, single barrel, again, all tappable. Here's like a number breakdown of your highest types by number of bottles, proof analysis, price analysis. And again, I could tap 150 plus and just see those. And then tasting coverage is kind of fun because you can see what you've tasted for categories. And I find this is useful. Like if you're planning a tasting, like let's say, oh, wow, I really haven't had any of my port finished bourbons in a while. I'll do those. And then when you mark them as tasted, you kind of see the bar, go up. I've tasted more than this in my collection. I just haven't marked it as such in this version of the app. Anything else, by all means, join the Discord. The link to that is in the YouTube. I'm pretty active in terms of answering questions. Totally open to feedback and suggestions. I'll tell you what's next is the iPad version, which will have some different features because of the screen real estate. It'll also feature iCloud sync. So if the iPhone is set to sync with a spreadsheet, the iPad just syncs with the iPhone via iCloud. You don't have to really do anything else. And also some fun features that I'm thinking of for kind of a point one or point two release. But I'm really excited about this. Try everything out. Let me know if you have any questions. And thanks so much.